What's up, guys? You are listening to HVAC Masters of the Hustle podcast. And this is your host, J Dub Moneymaker, and welcome to episode 88. Man, episode 88. I can't believe we're almost at 100. Every single week, every Monday, the podcast drops. It's there for you guys to start the week off right. For all my listeners that reach out to me every week and tell me truly how this podcast is bringing you and your company to the next level. As well, for my new listeners, there's a lot of episodes to catch up on. So make sure you smash the subscribe button. Make sure you tell your friends and everyone you know in the HVAC industry, because this is helping thousands and thousands and thousands of people get to the next level. And man, I believe that everyone has a Spartan in them. It's my job, my duty, and my obligation to bring that out in you. And do I have a great guest for you guys? The owner of the company's been on here, Dustin Miller, but let's get the behind the scenes gal who runs the show, I would say. Let's welcome Michelle Van Beek. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm absolutely honored.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get you on. When I was out there the last couple of times, I've watched you and your work ethic. And I mean, I'll tell you, Dustin like the back of your hand, you know his lunchtime, everything.
Yes, definitely. Dustin definitely needed a right hand, and luckily we're able to work very cohesively, and I'm able to be that for him. So
Absolutely. So tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, how you got into an HVAC industry role.
okay, so actually it happened by chance. I've always worked in the customer service industry, and actually, I've known Dustin for years and years. I watched him start the business from the ground up, and every time I ran into him, the business was just growing by leaps and bounds. I'd always joke around whenever I saw him and said, "Hey, when you get big enough, you should totally bring me on to your staff," half serious. But one day I ran into him about 6 years ago, and he started talking to me about what I was doing. I was running a customer service department for a safety supply company, and it was a lot larger scale. But Dustin was asking me how to handle certain problems in his business and what I would do and all of this stuff. Unbeknownst to me, he was interviewing me. So so I leave him, and within an hour, he calls me on my cell phone and offers me a job at the company. So really cool. And at that moment, I knew, number one, I knew nothing about HVAC. And two, I knew that no matter what was standing in my way, that I was going to be successful and I was going to kill it no matter what that took. So that's just what I did.
No, awesome. So you've been 6 years now.
Yeah, just under 6 years.
Okay. And for Dustin over there, you're operations manager or general manager?
General manager.
General manager. So you're running the show. So what was coming into the industry, being management of, at the end of the day, this is a men dominant industry, right? So you coming in as a management role, what are some things that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome that?
Oh, that is a great question, and probably a long answer, but if you'll bear with me, I'll get to it. Um,
Absolutely.
so instantly, I come into the organization with a goal. Dustin was still working in the truck. He was working in the business and not able to work on the business. So he knew he had inefficiencies. He knew he needed a stronger foundation. And that's why he finally, recruited me to come in and help him. So needless to say, from the get-go, I was not the most popular person. Um, I mean, I can be very honest about that. It didn't matter how much experience I had in management. It didn't matter if I was a good leader. All it mattered was what I didn't bring to the table, not what I could bring to the table. I didn't know how to install a unit. I didn't know how to run a service call. So immediately, nothing else mattered to them. I really think there's just a stigma that's associated with a female leader in this industry, and I don't think it's intentional. I'm not 100% sure. sure exactly why it is, but I do think that it has something to do with the fact that most males in the industry have been in the industry for a million years. They have tons of experience, or they've been exposed to the industry for a million years. Their dad, uncle, grandpa, whatever, has been in the industry, so they feel like they've been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really funny, actually. For the first good year and a half, maybe 2 years, I was literally called a receptionist or a secretary by every single person in the industry, or excuse me, in the organization, including Dustin himself. And there's nothing wrong with being a receptionist or a secretary at all, but that's just showing you what the mindset was. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
female. I work in the office. Probably had a lot to do with the fact I was blonde. I must be a secretary or a receptionist. I can't, there's no way I'm the manager. So, needless to say, the guys fought me tooth and nail. I heard nothing but negativity. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I hate her positivity crap, and she doesn't have the slightest idea what it's like to run a service call or install a unit. How's she going to tell us how to do this process? So
Oh, you're going to learn today.
yeah, exactly. So I had to combat a lot of negativity. The odds were stacked against me. They didn't believe in me. They didn't even accept me when I first started. So the tiniest mistakes I were to make were scrutinized, and they were constantly judging me and blowing things out of proportion, basically. And I could have quit. I could have given up, but and maybe there was a point where I wanted to, honestly, but I told myself that the promise that I made that first day when I accepted the position, and there was no option for me to give up. I set my mind to something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to succeed, and that's what I did. So, how I overcame that was I put in work. I went to work. I immersed myself in the industry. I had Dustin give me technical training. I stepped up to do the safety meetings, the install meetings. Well, the guys glared at me like, "What is she? Why is she trying to teach us stuff right now?" But it didn't matter. I went to a million trainings, service management, owners boot camps. I even I'm sitting in a room full of all males, basically doing these trainings,
Mm-hmm.
and they're kind of looking at me like, "Oh, is that CSR lost? Is she supposed to be here?" Or, "Oh, that's cute. The owner's wife came to take notes for him." So
Yeah.
I figured that if I was going to be looked at weird anyway, I was going to sit in the front. I was going to raise my hand. I was going to brag about what I knew or talk about what I knew,
Yeah.
and that Jason was really the turning point, I think, because I started at breaks. The owners, all these male owners, were coming up to me and saying, "Hey, can you give me advice on how to do this?" Or, "Hey, do you have your process for this? Can we connect on it?" Or, "Hey, you want to come move to this state and work for me?" Uh, and I knew if I could convince a room full of male service managers or ops managers or owners that I was,
Absolutely.
yeah, I knew if I could convince them, I could convince my team. So, long story short, I've been rambling. I apologize, but
No, you're
long,
good. This is all for you.
well, long story short, the things that they hated the most, they ended up loving. They realized that, what do you know? My processes made their life easier. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I actually
Well,
made things easier for them. Or they saw how smoothly the business was running, and they were happy about it. This was all for them. That's what they didn't realize for so long.
mhm.
So I finally got the investment in my vision by them, which was super cool. And I'll never forget this day when one of the most stubborn and obnoxious of them all came into my office and said, "Look, I may not have always been easy on you. I may have given you hell and fought you tooth and nail, but I just want you to know that you're doing a damn good job." And
How'd
I,
that
I,
feel
uh,
for
I
you?
literally almost cried, but I couldn't let him see me cry. But I was so pumped. I was like, "I did it! I
Yeah.
did it!"
Nice.
So,
And that's crazy that you said that. I mean, I understand the leaps and bounds that a female has in this industry, But I mean, you are a workhorse. Every single time I've been to your guys' company to visit on site, I mean, the guys respect you. Like I said, you're a workhorse. You know
Thank you.
anything and everything that needs to be done. So, I mean, hats off to you, pat on the back. I mean,
Thank
I
you
was
so
very
much.
impressed with you. Hint, that's why you're on the podcast, right? Because you're a hustler, you're a grinder. And I mean, let me tell you, you know, my listeners, everyone listening, this girl works very, very hard to get where she is. And some things I want to talk about is you talked about, you know, leadership, what it takes to be a good leader. You know, what do you think takes someone to be a good leader, or what did it take for you to become a good leader?
Well, probably I would say honestly that I never was complacent. I always knew that no matter how good of a leader and I still feel this way, but no matter how good of a leader I was, that I could always be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I still do trainings. I read books. I mean, I accept criticism. I always work harder on myself, and I think that's what's really helped me grow as a leader. I've also had to toughen up, so to speak, meaning that I'd have to make some hard decisions and I have to be okay with those decisions,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't realize for the longest time that was what kind of set the tone for the company, and that's what was creating a good culture in our organization.
Absolutely.
Um, so those were some of the things, remembering that it wasn't how I showed up, it was or that I showed up, it was how I showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess making that decision every day that I was going to be a good representation of the company, or a positive leader every day. So I mean, it's a continuous project. I continually work on myself.
Absolutely. And what do you do to keep your mindset right? Because I talk about this on the podcast, our industry being a roller coaster ride, you know, and you got a heavy amount of workload that's on you consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month. How do you handle that and keep that mindset right? Because, like you said, you're very bubbly, very positive, right? So, how do you keep focus on being so positive when it's such an industry of a roller coaster ride?
And it is, every day it's something new. And again, this is just making that decision every day that you can't change your circumstance. You can only change the way you respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
So every day you're going to run into something. Every day you're going to have employees that are mad, or customers that are mad, or whatever the case is, or just me being overwhelmed with my workload. But I make that decision every day that I am going to put my best foot forward, and I'm not a victim to my circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the big thing is being honored to be able to be this stressed out, because I'm honored to be in this role. Or, I mean, I change everything to be positive. There's days that I'm having a stressed out morning. I'm driving in to work and I'm like, Michelle, you cannot walk in that door until you get your mind right. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, all of your employees are going to feel it. Whether they will admit it, I should say, or not, like the guys, they depend on me being a positive role model for them. So I have to put a smile on my face, and I have to look at every situation in a positive light, every single one.
Absolutely. And that's part of being a good leader too, you know, is sometimes, you know, you have to put that, you know, whatever is going on in life, you got to put it aside. You got to walk in with a smile, right? And that's the
100%.
and that's the thing I talk about is mindset, you know, as employees, as management, as business owners, the last thing to do is to come in and get inside your own mind, right?
Yeah.
Go inside your own mind because people feed off that. As technicians, your clients are going to feed if you're trying to turn over that call, putting pressure on them. Comfort advisor, putting pressure on trying to close them, involving them, right? And then as management, it's going to trickle your employees, right? So always being positive, always keeping that mindset. One thing I learned when I first came into this industry 10 years ago, there was this older gentleman I think I might have talked about this on one of my podcasts, but he said, Jason, every day I walk out, because he got so many letter of recommendations, so many. And I said, how do you do it? And he said, every day I walk out, doesn't matter what I'm doing in my life. I reach in my pocket and I put whatever's going on in my life in my bush. And then when I come back, I pick it up and I walk in my door. And then there's my life right there that I have to handle when I walk in the door. But work is completely separate, right? So keeping that type of
Yes.
mindset, and that's always stuck with me.
That's really funny that you say that because I say that to my employees all the time. I use a like slightly different analogy, but I always say like when you walk in, you hang everything up from your personal life and you focus on work. And when you leave work, you hang up work there and then you focus on your personal life and you separate the two because otherwise it's too overwhelming for you to be able to deal with it.
Oh,
So it's
absolutely.
funny that I say the same thing to my employees all the time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Great minds think alike, girl.
100%.
So one thing you talked about was some trainings that you had to go through to get where you are today, to get a good
Yes.
understanding of HVAC. What are some of the trainings that brought you to the level that you are at today?
I think do you want me to be specific?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the most profound ones that impacted my life the most was blue collar successes service management boot camp in Florida. I was so opposed to going. I was like maybe a month away from my wedding at that time. This was years back. And I was like, it was sold out. And Dustin kept bugging me, like, I want you to go. I'm like, I'm not the service manager. Like, I'm going to be out of my league. I don't want to do this. Like, but when things are important to him, find a way to happen because I know that he'll only push me if it's like going to really be worth my while.
Yeah.
So I did it. I went and Tab Hunter was there and he spoke most of the time. And that entire training was full of gold nuggets. I was writing the whole time, I swear, like nonstop. But the thing about Dustin and myself, we both do this, and I love this about us, is that we don't just get all pumped up at a training and then go back and like lose track of it. Like when we commit
Mhm.
to saying we're going to
Go
do something, we
implement.
do it. So I
Yep.
literally implemented every single one of those gold nuggets that I wrote down that TAP had to offer. And it was game changing. In fact, I think that's what eventually led to the complete buy in of all the guys.
Nice. And that's the crazy thing is people go to these trainings, right? And they invest, I mean, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands
Yes.
of dollars, but they don't come back and they don't implement, right? So the fact that you guys always come back and you implement those gold nuggets, and it speaks volumes to where you guys are today. I mean, you guys just keep growing, next level, next level, next level. Now you have the pest control company, which is doing very well as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is one thing I feel like that does set us apart, but it also has brought us, like you said, where our company was 6 years ago isn't, I mean, it was basically like a mom and pop shop, like where the owner's working out of his own truck to now
Yeah.
where we're multi-million-dollar company and we're just operating at the next level, like you said. I mean, it's made a huge difference, truly.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking a little bit about the training that you've done to get where you are. How often do your employees do training, and what type of training have you guys done with your guys as employees and staff?
We've actually done a lot. One thing, we're never afraid to know when we've outgrown a group and seek the next best practice group to sign up for. So we do that and we involve the whole company usually. Or we will go, Dustin or myself will go and then we'll get the training and bring it back. But a lot of times, I mean, we invest in our employees all the time. We'll send them to different states. We'll bring in trainers. We bring in technical trainers, motivational trainers, sales trainers like you. I mean, we're not afraid to invest in them because we understand that their success is our success. So we've done quite, I mean, I could name 10 right now that we've done for sure. We've
Hmm.
used all over the industry.
Absolutely. And, the good thing about investing in training and everything like that is implementing it after, but seeing where you could scale too, right? I mean, I know that you guys have Uncle Joe, you had myself, you've had, other trainers, big trainers, right?
Yes.
And the importance I want my listeners, business owners to understand, it doesn't matter the dollar figure when you're investing in training, right? It's the return, but you guys also have to take that training and go implement what you guys are being trained, right? Or maybe take the
100%.
nuggets out of it, right? Take the nuggets out of it and implement it in your own way, right? So when I go out and I teach my
Hmm.
training, I teach my 7 steps process, but everyone has their own personalities. Everyone has their own attitudes and everything. So make it your own. And that's something I want to stress for my listeners out there is whatever presentation you guys are taught, just make it your own. Don't make it super scripted or anything like that. Bring your personality out in it. Have fun with what you're doing.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say, though you did not put me up to this, that any of the owners who are listening, if they are the least bit interested, they need to invest in bringing you out. Do it quickly because he's booked out for like 10 years right now. We try to get him out like way sooner, and he's always booked, so far booked out, but that's for a reason. That's because you are really really good at what you do. And I will say this too, like they will 100% see an investment or return in their investment immediately that week. Even if you can't teach your guys to sell, at least Jason will sell for you for a week. So there's that.
Yeah, right. So anyway, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Michelle, also talking about one thing that you guys do consistently and very important is management meetings, right?
Yes.
Every time I'm out there, it seems like you guys are always doing management meetings. I don't know if that's weekly, monthly. Seems like it's weekly though. Am I correct?
Yep, you're
And what do
correct.
you what do you guys go over in the management meetings? Can you kind of speak to the owners that are listening?
Absolutely. So it is very important to keep your leadership team all in the loop. That wasn't something we've always done. That's something we've adopted through training. I believe that was Next Star. So we do huddles, and basically I talk about upcoming things. I have everybody give me updates on their departments. Then I have everybody give me struggles that they're facing. We talk about things that are upcoming within the organization and how we can tackle those problems. And then I give them action items, and every single week that we follow up on it. I even do something unique. I started doing something unique where I tell them what my personal goals are, as long as it's okay to talk about. I tell them what my goals are within the organization, so they can hold me accountable to those goals too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I want to talk about for business owners or management right now is maybe doing vision boards, right? So when you
Yes.
guys do vision boards, that's very powerful to do a vision board that has a 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year, right? And as management, when you have your employees walk in every day and it's in your training room and they see that stuff every day or every week, and then you could push them to achieve that, right, and help them cross it off the board. I mean, there's people that want to buy houses, cars, make a better life, pay off their debt, things like that. So as management, feels really good when you could help your employees and cross something off the list. Do you guys do anything like that?
You know what? We don't, but that's something that we have wanted to do for probably the last year. And I've been failing, I guess, to do that because I've been working on other parts. But that's something we recently just talked about, actually, within the last couple of weeks of having our leadership team and our all of our employees, because everybody wants different things.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something that I actually spoke about in our leadership meeting last weekend, which is really funny. But I told him, I said, we need to help our employees find out what motivates them, and how we can help them obtain those goals. So that's on my
Absolutely.
to-do list. It is. You can
Yeah,
hold
well,
me
there you
accountable to
go.
that.
But I will hold you accountable for that.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Talking about your hiring process now. I mean, I've gone to your company twice and your employees are top-notch employees. How do you go about finding such good employees like that? And what's kind of your hiring process?
So that's challenging. I think that's challenging throughout the entire industry.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I know everybody struggles to find great technicians, but something unique that we do, and I don't know if Dustin talked about this when he was on, but um, we like to train service technicians from the ground up. We look for people with excellent customer service skills, mechanical aptitude, and we recruit them. And so we'll send them off to accelerated training programs, and then we have them ride along with our lead technicians and even with the owner. And then we just bring them up to par. And I'm telling you that that is gold. That way has been so much more successful than finding service technicians in the industry that have been there for 1,000 years and had all
Bad
these
habits.
bad habits. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's something cool that we do. A really big thing is just finding when you're recruiting is making sure that you find people who want the same things, who fit in your core value mold,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Because I mean, and I'm the tough cookie, honestly. I'm sure Dustin's told you that. If you interview with him, he'll hire you immediately. But 9 times out of 10, I'm coming in that office in the middle of the interview and I'm looking at him like, nope, don't even try it.
Yeah.
Don't even try it.
Dustin's the big teddy bear over there.
He is. He's too nice. But I'll talk him. I mean, I hate being the tough one, but honestly, like if I'm in charge of running the entire organization, that comes down to the people, even who or our employees, our staff. So that means that I have to be choosy about who I bring into the industry because it can very negatively affect our culture.
Oh, absolutely. And talking about culture, how did you sustain such a good culture? What do you guys do for your employees? Because I know you guys do a lot.
We do, but I mean, I know everybody talks about trips and family feels, and we have all of that stuff. But I think that the more important thing for people listening to understand is, like I said earlier, what makes a great culture is not the easiest thing to do. You have to make difficult decisions. You have to understand that, especially as you're rapidly growing, that the people who start the journey with you are not going to always finish the journey with you. You know, you have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to get rid of bad apples and preach positivity and fill your team with team players. That's the biggest thing because, you know, you have bad apples on your team and they spread poison all over your team. You know, if you all your leadership is positive and then you bring team players on your team, that's the best way to keep the culture positive at all times and steer away from the negative stuff. And then you can do trips and invest in your employees and do all kinds of fun stuff and have that family feel. But it starts from the hires. It starts from who you keep on your team.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, Michelle. I believe 100% in that. And talking about processes and procedures, how important are processes and procedures? And when should you, how did you implement them when you came on? Because you said that you took away a lot of good nuggets. So I'm just curious, how did you implement different processes and procedures and what were they? We might have just lost her. Let's just wait a sec. So while we're waiting for everyone that's listening to the podcast right now, I just want to let you guys know truly, you guys are bringing my dreams to reality, going out here, training you guys, all my listeners that reach out to me every single week. And you guys truly tell me that this podcast is bringing you guys to the next level because at the end of the day, that's my focus point, right? When I come in and I bring in all these different material, all these different guests for you guys every single week, not missing 1 week. I'm here for you guys all the time. We're going to wait, see if she comes back in. Not sure what happened. But anyways, hopefully everyone's having a good final month of the industry before the end of the year because 2020 has been a crazy year. Let me tell you guys about that. Crazy year in 2020. So, with all the leaps, sorry, with all the different leaps and bounds. Ooh, Gotta get some water. With all the leaps and bounds that we had to overcome in this industry this year, I mean, what I've noticed is when I've came to different companies, from the East Coast to the West Coast, a lot of companies didn't put COVID as an excuse. And a lot of companies really exceeded and had, record months in the last 6 months or in the year. So I want to, say congratulations to all my listeners out there, all my business owners, all my comfort advisors, all my technicians, all my dispatchers that showed up every single day. Even though we had all this craziness happen, you guys showed up. You didn't make any excuses. And you guys performed at top peak level. So awesome job. Absolutely awesome. All right, we got her back in here. So no worries. I've been filling it in with a bunch of motivational stuff. So happy to have you back.
Yeah, I had to get on my phone. It wouldn't let me back on the browser, so I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries. No worries. So what I wanted to ask was I was talking about different processes and procedures that you learned from trainings and stuff like that, and what you had to what kind of processes did you bring into the company, and what was kind of the process of getting it implemented and having people buy into it, because that's the hardest thing, is having your employees buy into it.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. That's a monstrous question. Um, so some of the things, especially from the specific training that I mentioned, was doing having standards in place that had to happen on every single call and every single install. So
Mhm.
there was a series of forms that had to be filled out. There was pictures that had to be taken, basically, so we could ensure quality assurance. And then, as an accountability piece, they have to call in. We call it tend declare, which we stole from Tab. Um, and that's where they call in after every single call before they leave. We have to make sure that all of the pictures are in place, the notes are in place, the estimates are in if it wasn't sold, and then the payments were collected. So they call in, we make sure everything is there before they can even leave the job. If
Call
they
by
leave,
call management.
yeah, well, I mean,
Perfect.
yeah, exactly. So we make sure all of those things happen. And we use it like for the installers, we use that. The way we did a buy-in for them was we told them that we were going to use everything that they did in their tended clear for perfect installation award. So if everything
Mhm.
in and everything looks good, we make sure all the quality assurance check has been done. Then they get pushed forward to our perfect installation award to and at the end of the month we pick the best of the best of the best and they get $1,000 cash, that team. So that was an easy way to buy in because we just
Mhm.
cycle money from our units and we give them money for being the best of the best. So for them it was, of course everyone gives you pushback when you first roll out something new, but you just keep letting them know why we do it and the benefit have for the company and themselves too. So
Absolutely. And I
it's
got to ask you a quick question. So having the best of the best install, I could see that getting really competitive and people taking a lot of pride in that. Is that what you've noticed?
oh my gosh, our process and our quality has tripled, quadrupled since we started this because first of all, it was really easy to pick the best of the best at the very beginning. And then it now, I mean, now it's like a death grip. It's the hardest thing in the whole wide world to pick the best of the best because everybody's performing at this insanely top-notch quality because they all want to be they all want to have bragging rights. They all want to and I think it's more about the bragging rights than it is the money, truthfully,
Yeah, yeah.
because they our wall. I mean, you've seen it when you walk in. So they go up on the wall, all the customers, the employees, everybody sees them. And so, I mean, it's a really big deal. Everybody wants that. So, I mean, it's helped the business so much, not just so if a customer calls in, we have all of this stuff, but also we send it to the customers after the installs and say, look, this is what you had and this is what you have now.
Mhm.
We're no one else does that. I mean, in our market. So I mean, it's improved our company, it's improved the employees' lives, and they perform at way up here now.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to ask you, Michelle, I always talk about two things. We got to know what drives us and we got to know our why. So I got to ask you, what drives you and what is your why? What's the reason why you wake up and show up to work?
Well, I am very accomplishment driven. That is my thing. And I think that that kind of speaks for itself if you spend any time with me at all. It's not about money to me, it's about accomplishment. So, number one, I get up out of bed every day and I do it for my family. But I also do it because I feel so good when I know that I have accomplished something, um, when I've made a difference. And so that's what drives me. I like to think that I have a lot to do with the progress that the company's made and how successful we are today. So, I mean, I can't take all the credit. Obviously, my team and my amazing boss, who goes who works so well with me and who knows where I want to get, and he's always backed me and supported me even when no one else did.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's just so cool to see where we've come, where we started, and where we are now. And I mean, that's what drives me. I mean, to continue to grow to the next level and to put my stamp on it, I guess, if that's
Oh,
cheesy.
absolutely. No, not at all. So I got to ask you, I got listeners from business owners, dispatchers, CSRs, comfort advisors, technicians. What would you like for them to get out of this episode of HVAC Masters of the Hustle?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I'm gonna focus a little bit on the female leader role on
Hmm.
this one. I'm going to say that if you're a service technician, if you're an installer, if you're any of the males in the industry and you have a female leader right now, don't give her hell. I mean, I hope that you hear like how much harder they have to work to get your respect and your acceptance. Focus on what they're doing, how hard they're working, and what they do bring to the table, more so than what you feel that they don't bring to the table. To the owners out there, do not be afraid to make an unpopular decision or choice for your organization. Consider bringing in a female into your leadership team. Don't be afraid that that's not going to be accepted by the guys. We all know that the service technicians, our best service technicians, do not make the best service managers. I mean, that's a mistake. It doesn't matter if we don't know how to install something or be a service technician. I mean, that doesn't mean we can't be an amazing leader. And it might end up being the best decision you've ever made. I know it was for Dustin,
I
but
trust me. I think that was probably a very good decision he made.
thank you so much. And then lastly, it's for the women out there, whether you are a leader currently or whether you'd love to be but you're afraid to be, reach for the stars. Do not hold yourself back because you get pushed back. The only thing between you and your goal is you. So you have to be able to have thick skin. You have to be able to have determination, immerse yourself in the culture, learn or in the industry, learn technical training, whatever it takes, just keep pushing. And remember that believe in yourself and what you bring to the table, or no one else will.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being a guest in the hot seat. It's an honor for you to be on the podcast. I'm
Yeah.
super stoked because we talked about this months ago and it finally emerged and happened.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm so honored and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely.